Carry this baby. Drop that phone. Your baby needs your warmth. Rose, go and sleep. You can't keep working like that. You just put to bed and your body isn't as it used to be. These were Madame Gladys' words to her daughter, who had just put to bed. I'm fine, Mama, Rose would reply. Rose got married a year ago to a man that was the best of her options when she was approached in her mid-30s. She worked as a hospital receptionist, but she is a highly ambitious woman who has taken courses upon courses to upgrade her income. She lived in a town, but her taste and courage showed exposure. She had a desire to marry a man who earned much better than her, but unfortunately for her, those men came in packages that had weaknesses she couldn't tolerate. It's either they cheat or they are abusive. She couldn't trade her peace for anything. Her mates got married. Her juniors got married. It was as though she had been forgotten. Her hope grew weary. She started working towards relocating out of her locale. Just when she was planning that, a suitor was introduced to her by a friend. She didn't like such arrangement, but she decided to give it a try, in order not to hurt her friend. Herself and the guy Jake, got into the talking stage. The first thing that pissed her off about the intended love was the fact that he was a low-income earner. He had a job and he had learnt a skill, but he was yet to get enough capital to start out his entrepreneurial journey. Rose had wanted to opt out from the first week. Her disgust for poverty knew no bounds. Though she wasn't rich, but her commitment to self-development was enough evidence. Her friend Shewa had talked to her when she complained about his finances. She advised that once he had a regular means of income and he had a skill that could be monetized anytime soon, then there is hope. She advised her to watch him more and see if he had noble qualities that make for a good husband. Then reminded her of how she had had a relationship with rich guys with terrible attitude who still left her. She heeded the advice, and after 3 months with Jake, she was sure she wanted to marry him. Jake was such a responsible and decent man that made the relationship experience a pleasant one. He had control over his temper and emotions. When she realized the relationship was getting serious, she started sharing the things she knew about wealth building with Jake. Jake would listen carefully, to Rose's delight, but Jake was a slow executor. He takes his time to process and do things, a quality of ease that Rose didn't find appealing. Rose has a choleric personality. Once the idea comes to her head, she executes it. They courted for 6 months and it was a journey of mixed feelings. There were times she was so sure she wanted to marry him. Other times she wanted to run away because she honestly was scared about what their finances would be like in marriage. Sheikh most times would assure her of the plans he has in place to better his life. She also shared her concerns with her mother, who told her that she was hardworking. Her strength could cover up for the man's weaknesses. That may be the reason God is bringing you into his life, she said. Rose ruminated over these things. 3 months later, he got married. Her fear for his financial incapacity started getting visible from the wedding. Rose's family was the reason the wedding was colorful. Left to her man and his family, it would have been nothing short of a get-together. She went through the wedding with mixed feelings. She was happy she was getting married, sad that she would be having money issues. However, she made up her mind that she was going to let her home work. When she realized she was losing peace in her home by always bringing up talks or their financial incapacity, she decided to let the topic rest. The effect on her was that she became overly obsessed with work. She had always been hardworking, then it became excess in marriage. What she had in mind was that she would be the financial pillar for the family, since her husband was weak in that regard. Soon she got pregnant. Aside the 2 week sickness she had at the beginning of the pregnancy, her pregnancy journey was itch free. She continued working like someone who wasn't pregnant. Her husband had had heated arguments with her many times on why she needed to rest more. But Rose would get defensive until the man started feeling guilty. He didn't enjoy the marriage as Rose had such a strict timetable for when she wanted to do her things. She cooked her food when she wanted to cook it. Anything aside her scheduled time is a no for her, even if her husband were dying. She played with him only at her scheduled time. Any cuddling initiated aside her scheduled time was a no. She walked out of meetings that exceeded the appropriate time, even if it was a family meeting. Jake had complained bitterly many times, but Rose would say that's how rich people behave. Months later, she put to bed. They had an emergency during the birth that incurred a lot of expenses. Jake always came through. Why Jake doesn't have money for fun, which includes regular eat outs like Rose wanted, monthly budget for exotic care like she wanted. Jake always came through financially for the needs of the family. Jake had been able to produce the money needed for the surgery. When Rose was discharged, her mother had come to do Omugwo. Jake's mother had come and gone after 2 days. Rose had had a good bed rest for the 2 days her mother-in-law was around. This was after she made an attempt to work on her laptop barely 2 hours after she left the hospital. Her mother-in-law had shouted at her, asking her if she wanted her son to spend another round of money in the hospital to avoid trouble. She had put up the character her mother-in-law wanted before she left. She had a good rest for 2 days. When her mother-in-law left, she put on her boss lady garment where she had hung it. At first, her mother didn't know it was serious. She always made it look like she just wanted to check something on her phone. Madam Gladys would carry the newborn baby, pacifying it, and right in her presence, her daughter would press her phone for 45 minutes. Her breaks were only when she needed to feed the baby. Her mother cleans the baby up and other things. Her husband handles the kitchen when he's back from work. Mrs. Gladys has corrected her daughter many times when she found out that the few times she stepped out to have a me time without the baby is always on the bed. Rose hasn't carried the baby for 3 minutes at a stretch since she came back home. She breastfeeds him, lays him in bed, and continues pressing her phone, much to her mother's dissatisfaction. Her mother had shouted at her one day that a baby that had just been fed should not be laid down immediately. Rose would argue with her mother, telling her she is always around the baby, so nothing would happen to it. Madam Gladys complained to Jake, who in turn talked to his wife. Rose got angry. I'm doing all this for us. There is this lucrative course I am doing. She would go on and on to explain why the family needed an upgrade in their finance and how she just couldn't sit to watch. Her mother had always told her, let your husband be the man. He isn't lazy. Your style may not be his style, but haven't you observed that he has been financially responsible? She said. Rose would agree with her and still revert to the old her later on. Soon, Mama Gladys left for her house and the baby was left alone with her mother. Rose didn't change. She tried to fake a change for 2 days after her mother left by carrying the baby more often. However, she got bored and started leaving the baby in bed most times, even after she just finished feeding him. One day, she had rushed into her room after being in the living room for hours working on her system. Her baby had been in the room where she laid him after he had eaten. She had taken her laptop into the living room to work. Then it suddenly dawned on her that she had been in the living room for a long time. She stood up and went into the room, went to her baby, and wanted to check her before she continued her work. To her dismay, her son's face was pale and his eyes closed. She tapped him and tried many other things to wake him up. She screamed. Neighbors came around and took the baby to the hospital. Her husband had been called and he rushed there to meet them. The doctor diagnosed that the baby had choked on food. He said they were lucky the baby is still alive. They were discharged. Jake had been unusually quiet after they got home. Rose had gone to sit beside him days later. Just spill. I know you have a lot to say about me, she said, looking sad. You almost killed my baby, Rose. I wouldn't have forgiven you if that had happened. Thank your God. Learn to strike a balance. He went on to educate her on the need for her to learn how to balance her time with work and family. When it was done, Rose apologized profusely.